The regularly scheduled meeting of the Town Council of the Town of Southern Shores for December the 4th is in order, and I invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At our last meeting, I called attention, though I probably need to call your attention to the fact that we'd lost one of our great citizens, Peter McFarland. And here we are at the meeting tonight, and I would mention that we've lost another one of our great citizens, Frank Lowry, since the last meeting. Frank passed away a week ago, Saturday morning, I believe. Tough to lose the old timers that have given so much to the town in the time that they've been here, and I keep thinking about these people and how much they contributed and how much old timers that are still around are contributing. It's a town that gives everybody an opportunity to be great. Join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Council, what's your pleasure with the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Anybody uneasy? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have an agenda. The consent agenda is before you. It consists of 4 routine resolutions. Here are no objections. I would call for a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The consent agenda is behind us. Staff reports. Mr. Wes Haskett, Town Planner.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For permitting and inspections for November, there were 6 zoning permits issued, 3 lot disturbance permits issued, 30 building permits issued, which consisted of 3 new single-family dwellings, 4 additions, and 23 others. 44 building inspections were conducted at 28 different job sites. The number of single-family dwellings currently under construction is 10, and the total amount of fees collected in November was $13,357.50. And also, just an FYI, let you know that we've submitted the bicycle and pedestrian planning grant, and we hope to hear something prior to June 2013. So we'll keep you all posted on that. Any questions?
How are we doing as compared to last year, same time?
I do not have the numbers in front of me.
Okay, can we do that for like next
Sure,
week? Okay.
we can do that at the next meeting. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief Cole.
Good evening. This is a report for the month of November. Officers responded to 783 calls for service. Just some of the highlights of those calls for service: we had 34 foot patrol, another 34 that were traffic control. Most of those were at the school. Conducted 143 residence checks, another 205 business checks. Investigators followed up on 16 different cases that they're working on. We had 1 motor vehicle accident, 20 alarms that we responded to, 21 suspicious person calls, 2 motorist assist. We had 9 mutual aids. We didn't have any code for this, but we had 1 shipwreck too. Incidents and crimes, we had 3 larcenies that were reported, 2 criminal damage to property, and 1 was drug-related. Officers made 10 criminal arrests for the month, conducted 64 traffic stops. Out of that 64 traffic stops, 21 written citations, and they handed out another 41 warning citations, and 1 parking violation. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Harvey, Fire Department.
Good evening. For the month of November, we had a total of 32 calls, of which 20 were medical assists. Our calls for the month of November ranged from a mailbox that was totally consumed to the aforementioned shipwreck. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The Mayor Pro Tem has pointed out to me that I skipped over approval of the minutes of the November the 7th meeting. So we'll revert to item 2, Council, the minutes of November the 7th. Each of us have had a chance to go over these twice. Is there any problem with anything? Anybody have a problem with these minutes? No. I move approval of the minutes of the Town Council meeting of November the 7th, 2012. I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're done. Planning Board? Good evening, Mr. Sam Williams.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I have a very brief report. It's a belated report this evening. Last month, representatives of the Planning Board could not make this meeting, so I'm just going to quickly mention our recommendation on the outdoor lighting ordinance, ZTA 1203, that there's a public hearing scheduled later in this meeting. The Planning Board recommended approval of the outdoor lighting ZTA, and in talking with Mr. Haskett, I realized that Council made some minor changes to the ZTA. Also, the Planning Board recommends, or not recommends, but found that the ZTA was consistent with the town's adapted land use plan. And that's my report for this evening. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see the Civic Association. Checkout Property Owners Association. I see them. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Leo Holland.
Good evening, Mayor. Our meeting is Thursday night, so I don't have anything really new to present from the board, but I do have a question regarding the sidewalk and the tree issue on Trinity. I don't know what the status of that is, or if anybody else has checked with you. I know it's been there since Sandy, and the tape's around there, and I think we're starting to get a few complaints of that not being repaired. So I don't know what the process or the procedure is to do that. So that's a question. The other thing is, this does not relate to the CPOA, but Saturday night we have our Southern Shores Boat Club Boat Parade and Christmas event. So we're looking for people to attend and participate. The menu will be chili, Brunswick stew, and shepherd pie, and we have a children's menu, and there'll be everything, other side items for that. And then one more thing, tomorrow we have the Red Cross is having a blood drive tomorrow from 12 to 6 at Holy Redeemer. So if anybody wants to contribute to the blood bank, please show up, because we have good food down there too. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. With respect to the question you raised, I suggest you get in touch with the town manager tomorrow morning. He's shaking his head. I think he'll be available to you. I've had some wonderment about that tree myself.
I just have to drive by it.
Do we have any sign-ups for public comment? Oh, good. Ms. Buckley, good evening.
Good evening, Maureen Buckley, Gravy Pond. My husband and I were very much in favor of course, having the road repaired and widening it because we are both members of the fire department. We understand the necessity for that. However, the length of time and the conditions and inconvenience seems to be dragging on. And also the passive-aggressive attitude of some of the workers towards some of us trying to get in and out of the street. Now we understand the base is incorrect and that will have to be lifted and a new base put on. It is the holidays. Some of us like to entertain. We certainly have no place for anyone to park now because the whole area is surrounded by muck and mud and dirt. In terms of the aesthetics, the curbs kind of remind me of the Long Island Expressway entrance. So with that in mind, I certainly hope the board will consider some native plantings when this is all done and some, grasses or shrubs, plants, whatever, just to make it look more like it was when we moved in. And on a positive note, Joe has been very helpful, not my Joe, but your Joe, has been very helpful whenever we had concerns and had called. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley. Council has had before us, I think this is the third time, maybe the fourth time, a proposed ordinance amendment to our outdoor lighting, Chapter 36, Section 36166. And after some rework at the last meeting was directed, we set tonight as a public hearing, and I declare the public hearing on that ordinance now open. Who wants to speak to it? Don't see anybody desiring to speak to it. The public hearing is closed. Council, what is your pleasure? We have an ordinance amendment here that's proposed by staff, and the planning board have worked over quite diligently. They feel that it is an ordinance that is enforceable. In fact, the reason for the amendment is to clarify a number of provisions in the existing ordinance that did not lend themselves to being enforced. So I think it's time for council to move on this. And I make a motion to approve proposed ordinance amendment ZTA 1203 outdoor lighting, Chapter 36, Section 36-166. And if I have a second, we can get on with it. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. Discussion?
We've talked about it 3 times.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
we talked about it before.
No discussion. All those in favor of this ordinance amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have it done. How about that? And I'd like to welcome our county chairman. He joined us this evening. Congratulate him on his unanimous reelection as chairman for another term. You have an opportunity to address the meeting if you'd like.
No, sir, I'm just here as a visit. Sir, this is something you need, sir.
You're most welcome.
No, sir, I'm not.
Council, our next item of business is the town perpetual cemetery trust fund, and for that we turn to our town manager.
Thank you, Mr.
We're
Mayor.
looking at item tab 4.
And members of council, this is a continued discussion and a back brief, if you will, from our last meeting and a subsequent meeting I've had with the officers of the Appomattox Community Foundation regarding the town's fund there. Of course, this is what the town owns is a perpetual cemetery trust fund held by the Appomattox Community Foundation. You see the statement in your, the last year's statement in your packet. There's roughly $6,000 in the fund, of which we get a disbursement of roughly 5% each year, and we also can split get 50% of any donations that were made during the previous year. The fund reminded me that they have taken on several donations this year from citizens of the town, that it is an attraction, so to speak, for donations to be made on behalf of the cemetery in memoriam. And for that reason, it is an attractive amenity. I'm also reminded of the agreement that the town entered into with the Community Foundation when this was set up. It's basically the same agreement that other fund holders have, and the restriction, of course, is that the town can't touch the principal unless there is a major emergency factor, and that board has to approve that. Based on everything, all that, and the size of the fund, one other factor, of course, is at 5%, which is the return, we would have to have, of course, $400,000 in the fund to achieve a $20,000 disbursement for each year. So I just use that as a benchmark for trying to determine if that's what we want to rely on as far as a cemetery budget. It would take us a long time to get there, probably. Based on all that, it's my recommendation as town manager that the council leave the fund as is and allow us to draw what we can draw out of it each year, and then we'll deal with the cemetery as we have dealt with in the past, or we can have a separate budget each year that's created. But I think this is, the Community Foundation fund is not big enough to warrant pulling it out. I think if we leave it there, we're in better shape than we would if we made a change. And that's my recommendation to you.
Comment?
When you say leave it as it is, again, one of the intentions was to make this a perpetual care type thing. Are you saying, are we really doing that, or are we just paying out, putting out the expenses, whatever it is for maintenance and,
That we are bound to use the revenues from that for the cemetery. It's a cemetery perpetual trust for the cemetery.
from the fund.
Yes.
But above and beyond that, if I would be to buy a plat today, would that go into the fund or would that go into?
Now recall, we got two funds.
That's right. does it
One
get-
for one the town owns internally, and then this fund.
Okay. So the first question that you're interested in right now is
I'm
that
just
fund.
addressing the Outer Banks
Okay.
Community Foundation.
Okay.
Fund. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a 2011 information, so it's almost we're getting the second year of age. But it starts off at $62.95.97. It gets a $50 donation. It's got an administrative fee of minus $62.96, a management fee of minus $34.81. It has interest income of 21 cents. This is a year discussion. Dividend income of $147. It's invested money, which takes a unrealized loss of $317.60. So you end up with $217.85 less than what you started off the year before with, I calculate, a loss of 3.46% of your money, not a gain of anything. So I don't know why we should keep money with the Outer Banks Community Foundation so that we can lose money with them. If we took the $62.95 and placed it into an account in our own budget, we would at least not lose 3.46%. So I still don't know, since we don't use this money to maintain our cemetery, we use our budget to do the cemetery. What useful purpose, other than maybe collecting a donation here and there, which in this case was $50, why bother? Why not just take a donation under normal circumstances? Or why even carry this? I need a reason as to why we honestly need this, as opposed to not having what we currently have, our budget for the cemetery, and just work out of that, which we tend to do anyway, because it just sits there.
Well, I'll amplify one of my responses to you, that this fund was set up by this council as a mechanism for citizens to be attracted to make donations, knowing that their donation would indeed go toward the cemetery. They make a donation to the town of Southern Shores, it's not guaranteed to go to the cemetery.
Can they make it with a request to put it in that cemetery fund?
They can, but you don't have to honor that as
True,
town
but
council.
wouldn't we, like, being nice people, honor that in some fashion? I mean, or would we just say, screw you, we're not doing it? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
But-
would we? No.
But isn't the other part of this is what I heard you saying, is there's no way to really close it out at this point based on the agreement of the fund. So it's still there that amount is still there as a place to donate, which is, as you said, makes sense from that point of view.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
You can't withdraw it except in the case of an emergency. It's there.
Yeah, what's a losing money proposition here? People putting money into the fund and they get to lose it.
Well, George, we lost money in 2011, but I don't know what the history is, but the fund, all of its funds lost money in 2011, the Outer Banks Community Foundation, because of the economy. The town manager makes the case that the provisions for termination, which the council signed off on in its wisdom, and I must admit that I was a member of council at the time, makes it very difficult to withdraw that fund. I sort of favor leaving it with them based on the difficulty that we would encounter in withdrawing and the fact that it does provide a more meaningful place for memorial donations and whatnot for the cemetery to be placed, with assurance to the owner that indeed they're going to cemetery use. That's my view of this situation. But I haven't heard anybody from the other end of the table.
Am I reading this correctly, that the initial fund, that we initially started this in December December the 8th of '05, with a gift of $5,000. And that $5,000 and since December the 8th of '05 had grown at the beginning of 2012 to $6,295.97.
Yes.
So is that a $1,200 gain without us putting any more into the fund in that
And
5-year
that's-
period?
And also take into account that we've received disbursements annually from the fund. Yeah.
So we are in fact gaining from on our $5,000 investment, although this does reflect a loss for that particular year.
What is the disbursement per year that we get on this fund?
Well, I'll defer to the finance officer. My recollection is approximately $500, which recall we place into the general fund and then, excuse me, we place into the town cemetery fund. That goes in the cemetery fund.
Do we need a motion for this? Do we need no, just a consensus.
Councilman Sanders, do you have a view, or do you want to remain mute?
I really believe it's, I'm thinking it's along the same lines as town manager, and I don't see that this requires any action from the council.
It appears that we have a consensus that we should let the thing rest. Unless I hear an objection or a motion to the contrary, it's put to rest. Town manager, the discussion of the projected cemetery maintenance budget.
This is for discussion item tonight. At least last meeting, and I believe the meeting before, it was brought up about a budget for the cemetery, and also not only the way we had been maintaining the cemetery, but a budget for an enhanced cemetery. What we did was develop this as a enhanced cemetery budget just for discussion purposes. This takes into account an attempt to try to grass the entire cemetery, to keep the leaves blown off weekly and the twigs and limbs pulled off weekly. You can see the labor in the budget there is for a 2-day-a-week part-time person to be dedicated to the cemetery. It also takes into account enhancements as far as seed, fertilizer, as an attempt to get grass to grow all over. This is an enhanced budget, and I did this just for demonstration purposes. This does not come close to the expenses that we spend each year on the cemetery out of the Public Works budget. But this is an idea based on your council's previous discussions about what something might look like if we try to go all out and create a situation where we actually had a part-time person dedicated to the cemetery and we were attempting to green the entire cemetery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just for discussion, and I put this out for demonstration only because we had discussed it, I believe, the last 2 meetings. And I don't have any recommendation to you other than this was just a demonstration. Next spring, during budget planning, we can create a budget for the cemetery, taking into account the monies that are in the cemetery fund, not the Outer Banks Community Foundation Fund, but the town fund, as well as whatever we may need to interject from the general fund to fund the cemetery. So we can do it on paper in a different way next year, but I just wanted to give you a demonstration of what it would take to try to make that into something that really is not right now, but something more enhanced. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer questions, but that's basically what we did as an exercise.
don't have any questions, but I appreciate the exercise you put together, and I would appreciate your recommendation when it comes time for the budget to say, this is what we think we ought to do, where we are at that moment. But this is very helpful, thank you.
Any other comment? We'll move on to new business item 9A. We turn to the town manager for this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if you'll turn, I did send you a explanative memorandum under tab 5. I think what we wanted to do is start out with having the consultant engineer, Mr. Anteloff, present his design for both Honeysuckle Drive and also for Duckwoods Drive, Duckwoods Drive improvements tonight for your consideration and possible action on those, and at the same time, consider the financial concerns here we have about the pricing for those and what we have left as far as capital improvement for this year. And I'll just defer to Mr. Anteloff at this point to give his presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. We were tasked with designing 6 roadways a year and a half ago, and the remnant roads that are left from that project list are Honeysuckle Lane and Duckwoods Drive, a portion of Duckwoods Drive. And I have prepared an engineering design for a full-depth rebuild of Honeysuckle Lane, and with Hal's help and the Davenport's contribution of a right-of-way easement, we have incorporated a full-sized cul-de-sac at the end of the distal lane of that road. That road has an inferior subgrade. Pre-designed cores have revealed the presence of a peat layer that has caused that road surface to pump over time, much like a lot of the other roads that we have in the Maritime Forest section of town. So we have proposed a street improvement project that incorporates the full depth rebuild of the road and enhanced stormwater management. And that project is fairly straightforward. Duckwoods Drive, on the other hand, the original intention of the design was to address the road conditions itself and stormwater issues. And the complications on Duckwoods Drive are many, but it's primarily restricted by the fact that there's a 30-foot wide right-of-way. That roadway up to that point is a 60-foot wide easement, a right-of-way easement, but beyond that point of the project, where we start the project, which is about 52 Duckwoods Drive, it becomes a 30-foot easement. And within that easement, we have underground utilities. We've got a 20-foot paved surface, which leaves just 5 feet of space on either side of the road. I'm sorry, yes, 5 feet on either side, in which we would do other enhancements that we do when we do street improvement projects, such as stormwater management. And so early on in this process, we looked at trying to acquire an easement that would be perpendicular to the road alignment to the canal so that we could put some type of drainage feature in there. And we were unsuccessful in attempts initially to secure an easement like that. And the idea would be to do something similar to what we did on Chickahawk Trail, which is try to control the groundwater table elevation by providing a daylight and outlet to the canal. Now there's a distinct difference between Chickahawk Trail and Duckwoods Trail, or Duckwoods Drive rather, is that the elevation difference on Chickahawk Trail to the canal, the Chickahawk Trail road area is about an elevation 8. The canal is plus or minus 1 foot above sea level. So you have a pretty pronounced topographic difference in elevation between those two. And there were some questions when we did that design about, would we ever see any stormwater back up through the canal and back up through our system and have a negative impact on the roadway? If the elevation of the water in the canals gets to 8, we all have a problem. But Duckwoods Drive is different. The elevation of the roadway is about 3.6, and the canal is 0 to 1 feet, depending on the wind tide fluctuation. So we have a very slight difference between the elevation of the road and the elevation of the canal. So it means whatever we put in there, we have to have some fail-safes in, because there is a higher capacity for stormwater to go backwards through and end up on the road. During Hurricane Irene, when we had a wind tide that forced water through our canal system, Duckwoods Drive was one of the places that took it the hardest. So the first issue, addressing a full depth rebuild of the road, is easy, and that's what I prepared a design for. because we don't have a way in which to do enhanced stormwater, and we don't have the width of the road right-of-way area to do it, there's no major stormwater management enhancements to this design. So the figures that have been provided, we've done an engineering cost estimate for Honeysuckle Lane. That takes care of everything that's been proposed. Duckwoods Drive, is the cost estimate also addresses everything that's been proposed, absent major stormwater management components. So keep that in mind as you look at those figures. I think ballpark Honeysuckle Lane came in at about 175,000 to 200,000 with a 15% contingency on the range of potential values that would be bid for that project. And Duckwoods Drive was about 150 to 175, again with a 15% contingency on that estimate. And that's where it stands right now. I've also discussed with town staff a repair to Fern Lane from the intersection of Juniper Trail back about 130 feet or so from that intersection back going up the hill. There's a very low bad spot in there, and we've secured we did an informal bid with Barnhill and RPC, and both of them turned in a figure for that street improvement as well. So those are the things for you to consider as far as what the town has in the budget to do these projects. I'm not entirely aware, so let you all discuss how that falls together.
As I understand it, the Honeysuckle Lane package is ready to go out for bid.
Yes, sir. I projected a January 14th to have the bid period open, so we'd open bids sometime in early February, allowing for warmer temperatures so they could start the work, and pave sometime in March or April, accounting for warm temperatures. So it would be a spring project.
And as I understand it, neither you or the town manager or some of the members of council are not satisfied with the design for Duckwoods Drive. That you need access to the canal.
In the past, we used to just primarily focus on rebuilding our roads. But to protect the investment, which is getting more and more substantial every time we do a project, we need to manage stormwater. And that area has a high groundwater table, and the type of deficiencies that we had in the road surface are linked to inferior subgrade and a high groundwater table in a well-drained soil, but an area that doesn't drain by hydraulic gradient. It's important to do it. It's just sometimes more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but with an access
to
the canal, you could.
We have a place to get water so that we can try to attempt to control groundwater table elevation, so that we can protect that road, that right-of-way area. And that's really the only way to do it. It's been done successfully. I think Chickahaw Trail is a very good example of a successful project. That roadway performed exceptionally well during Hurricane Sandy and all the other heavy precipitation events we've had. So we would hope to do the same on that portion of Duckwoods Drive.
Council, we've been talking to two adjoining property owners on Duckwoods Drive about the possibility of them giving us a no-cost easement to lay a pipe. I was hoping that we would have something definite for you tonight, but one of the parties hasn't gotten back to me yet. So it's my thinking that it's sort of pointless to go ahead with Duckwoods Drive as presently designed, that we must continue to work to find a design that we have confidence in. And it's going to take some time to do that. Based on the numbers that the town manager has put together for us in this memo, it would seem to me prudent that we forego Duckwoods Drive in the current budget year and make it a priority one item for next year. And that would give us time, hopefully, to put a package together that we would have high confidence in accomplishing the solution to the groundwater and the stormwater problem.
That's similar to what we did with Chickahawk. We originally wanted that in 1 year, but because of the additional engineering, we delayed it. So we'd be talking about the same thing. But there is a workable solution ultimately?
I think so. It's more challenging because what we rely on Chickahawk Trail is gravity.
Yeah, that's why you said that
It's an
differently.
inexpensive way to move water from point A to point B. For Duckwoods Drive, once we secure an easement, then we have to start to look at how we move water, how we control groundwater. And there's a product that's called Advantage, which is instead of a pipe, it's an elliptical pipe that we can run underground to intersect that groundwater table. But to make sure that we're always getting it out to the canal, because there's not much elevation relief there, we may look at, the mechanized management of stormwater. And so that has to be fully vetted before we can decide, is that enhancement worthwhile? And then at the same time, we need to protect the system to make sure we don't get water going the wrong way.
Yeah, we don't want that.
As I understand it, you can fit this system into the 5-foot right-of-way that you have on that side?
Yes, sir. Yep. I mean, we may have some utility relocations, which we had the pleasure of dealing with on Deer Path Lane this time, but we'll have to see.
What side's the water main on?
It's usually on the east side.
Yeah.
The protocol is north and east, but I'd have to look and see on that. Is it on the east side? I believe it is.
What are your pleasure, Council? Any other discussion?
I happen to live on Duckwoods Drive, so I have a...
You have to recuse yourself.
No, I don't. I can offer an opinion.
He always has an opinion.
I can say what I want, but whether or not I can vote is the whole issue. But, I mean, there's 158 properties on that street. There's at least 100 people who live on that street with houses, so it's quite a large street in this town. It has also got the largest flooding area in this town that is owned by the town, as opposed to Highway 12, which is owned by the state. It is responsible for wiping out 2 police cars. And people live on that street know that depending upon what rainfall, because it's every rainfall, the size of Lake Duckwoods appears and then increases or decreases in depth and in width depending upon the length of time. So we can actually tell you how much rain has fallen by the length of the lake. I think it's makes no sense to spend $171,000 to resurface a road that's alligating all over the place because it's being destroyed by the flooding that exists there. So the townspeople will pay 1 cent on their taxes to fix this road and then end up having it need to be fixed again and again and again and again. So I personally it's a horrible road to ride on anyway. And if you have wounds, if you have kind of problems, if you have surgery, don't go on Duckwoods Drive unless you want to see. If you want to find out whether or not you've healed, go. If you find out if you don't want to know if you're healed, don't go. So consequently, I think we should delay. I think we should find a solution. I think we should, see whatever powers that we need to find or whatever methods and get it done correctly and pay to get it done because we do practice stormwater management and this is a flooding street. So, and this beats out Chickahawk immensely. This floods all the time. Chickahawk has its moments, tantrums of flooding. This one floods all the time. So it needs something to be done. So that's what I think. We should just find a solution. So much.
Any other comment? I think, Town Manager, that it leaves us, it leaves you with some guidance here that your package is okay to go ahead, with the exception of the Duckwoods Drive portion, which we will make our #1 priority for our next fiscal year's capital improvement program. I think it still leaves you about $20,000 short. I would suggest that you would probably come back to us with a budget amendment to use funds from the capital reserve fund to cover the shortage, if indeed we have a shortage after the bids come in. Is that a fair?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's a fair assessment and probably most likely what we would do. If that is the case, I would just recommend tonight then council act on approving the design for Honeysuckle and authorizing us to take that for bid. And at the time that we bring you the lowest, most qualified bid for that, we can have a budget amendment ready to accommodate all the things we discussed tonight.
That makes sense, everybody? Any problems? Let's do it.
I think
Honeysuckle. The plans have been on the table in there for several weeks. We've all had a chance to look at them. I know some of you have talked to Joe personally about them. I think it's time to move. And I'll entertain a motion. I will make a motion to authorize the town manager to issue the bid package for Honeysuckle Lane.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
We're moving right along. Thank you very much, Mr. Engineer. We have a budget amendment for the cemetery fund. Mr. Manager?
Members of council and Mr. Mayor, this is a recommendation for budget amendment number 3 for the fiscal year. And this is one of those instances where we have incurred or want to incur expenses for the cemetery and are requesting that funds be appropriated from the cemetery fund to do that. Since we did not make any appropriations at the actual time of budget, here we are throughout the year requesting operational funds for the cemetery, from the cemetery fund. This request is for funds for software, mapping software for the individual plots that will take us out of the business of paper maps and digitizing each plot. Also being able to record the information on each plot, pass that information on as time goes on and conveyances are made. We have interviewed 2 software vendors and seen demonstrations and visited the town of Manio and had staff at town of Manio give us a demonstration on how one of them works. We are satisfied and like one of them at least, in that it is an easier mapping situation, and that is what the software is. The funds are for that software. The other is for extra seed that we just incurred a seeding attempt several weeks back to seed for the winter. So that is the total amount requested at $5,200.
What's your pleasure, council?
I have a question about the software. It seems that 5,000 is a pretty steep price to pay for software. Where does it reside? What kind of machine does it take a dedicated machine, or will it reside on machines we already have? Does that include updates and instructions, and for how long?
Perpetual care.
It will go on our machines, and it's for a year. I think you have to pay for updates after that, but you're good for a year.
I concur with the answer. It's going on our server. It goes on definitely on our server, for sure.
Doesn't that include training too? It sure does.
It does what?
It does what?
Training.
Training. I mean, we're gonna have a discussion after, I want a discussion before.
Need a motion to
a motion to approve budget amendment number 3, the transfer of $5,200 to the cemetery fund, I guess,
Okay.
since we don't.
Do we have a
For
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
My only statement here is that we started 3 years ago with a plot of land, not knowing who owned what. We platted it, which we didn't have it platted. We found out we had a driveway that didn't belong to us. We now know at least where everybody is supposed to be roughly, and everything's been marked out, and we have a map. And I think it's time to get away from the method of pieces of paper and scraps and written things on a larger piece of paper, and get modernized and know who's buried where, and keep an accurate record of what is happening, because who purchases who does what, because I think people expect that. So I think it should be done.
I concur.
So do I.
Seems like we're pretty much in agreement. I certainly concur. All those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're done. Where are we here?
Could I go back 1 minute and ask a question of the town manager?
Yeah.
Do we need a motion on the Fern Lane piece, or?
Well, my proposal is that once the lowest, most qualified bid comes in on Honeysuckle, I would have to bring to you, I would bring to you that plus the cost that I had in the memo on the
So
Fern
that would be
Lane
one
and the other
project.
paving, and
Okay.
have one
Okay,
action at that time.
okay,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Board of Adjustment reappointments. Town planner, Mr. Haskett.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. We have 2 positions whose terms are set to expire on December the 7th, and both of those members, which are Ross Mitchell and Claire Sutton, have indicated interest in serving another term, which would be a full 3-year term, and expire on December 7, 2015. Any other questions? You should have a copy also of the full list of members and their terms.
Under tab 7.
I have one question. Is this list accurate, because is Dave Beckins still an alternate?
Dave Peckins, that does need to be adjusted. Mr. Peckins has indicated recently that he's going to be moving, and so that will be a vacant position. We'll have to do or solicit interest in filling that position.
I move we approve the appointment of Claire Sutton and Ross Mitchell for another term on the Board of Adjustment.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you all.
Done. Council, this resolution on loss of traditional hold harmless reimbursement funds was originally included in the consent agenda, and I requested, because of the nature of it and the fact that it's a surprise to most of us, I believe, that we put it down here under new business and let the town manager explain the situation to us.
Thank you. Members of council, Mr. Mayor, approximately 11 years ago, the General Assembly repealed what was then called the inventory tax. The inventory tax was collected by the Department of Revenue and distributed out to cities and counties as revenue under various formulas. And just about every town and county did participate in that, even if they didn't have manufacturing inventory in the town. The inventory tax was repealed. The General Assembly authorized local governments to enact a sales tax that would hold harmless them from the loss of that inventory tax. That authorization is getting ready to sunset now, 11 years later. The League of Municipalities has requested that its members, and also the County Association of County Commissioners has requested its members to pass resolutions resolving that the General Assembly extend the sunset and allow more time until the economy can get better and the effect of this would equal out. The town of Southern Shores, under the various formulas, and I'm not able to interpret the actual way that the math works with the county, but we participated in this funding through one of the sales taxes, and last year we received approximately $24,000 as revenue. That is what we potentially could lose, some figure around that, in the various formalization through the county if this sunsets. So based on that, the league, I presented this to you as a proposed resolution for you to consider, calling on the General Assembly to extend the sunset. But it's up to you. Towns are passing similar resolutions and forwarding them to the General Assembly.
I move approval of Resolution 2012-12-05. We have a second.
Second.
What is your pleasure, council? Comment? Discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved. Town manager?
Thank you, members of council. Mr. Mayor, manager's report tonight basically is a follow-up of last meeting. I did want to announce to you that the Division of Coastal Management office here in the Pitt Center has now closed. They were open a month, and they voiced their appreciation. The regional director, Frank Jennings, came and met with Mr. Haskett today and thanked the town for allowing them to have an office here. It served basically the entire northern part of the county. They did issue beach push permits and any other permits that CalMA had to issue for recovery from Hurricane Sandy. I did want to tell you that our town beach cleanup on the beach ended this past week. We spent approximately 3.5 days removing construction and demolition debris from the beach. It was removed and placed in dumpsters that Waste Management hauled away. So despite 2 northeasters, we were able to get what we thought was the Hurricane Sandy debris that was left, and I think the beach looks pretty good right now as we sit here. As indicated before, the Chickahawk Trail rebuild project is now 100% complete. We have paid out on that project, and it looks great. We've had a lot of comments from citizens, and that is a great project. The comments were made tonight about Deer Path, Gravy Pond, and Spindrift project. When we met with citizens in the beginning of the project, we made it specifically clear that the contract called for a completion date of December 15th. And that's basically the statement I made as town manager to the citizens, and we are pushing to have that done. We do have challenges every day. Large project, a project in a maritime forest, and a project where there are a lot of residents. So it has been a challenge, and for the most part, I have had mostly positive, if not all positive comments about the project as it goes on. We are pushing to try to have it completed on time. It's something on the radar screen every day here in Town Hall. I did want to kind of update you on our efforts now to proceed into phase 2 of the canal project. Beginning tomorrow, staff will be meeting to come up with draft specifications to be able to put out for bid early, probably by the end of January. That is one angle of attack. The other angle of attack is we've had discussions again with several financing banks, and we will be moving ahead to try to attract a financing package so that we can get that done by late spring. Of course, the goal is to have it all fall into place so that we can have an actual contract, financed and approved by the State Local Government Commission, and of course, so that we can begin actual dredging by October 1st. So that's the goal, and we're on target for all our administrative things that we have to do in-house at this point. I did want to, on a happy note, announce to you that, well, backtrack 1 second. You recall last year when you approved the budget, you did approve a line item authorizing the town manager to purchase a new tractor for the town and to sign the purchase documents. And I did want to call your attention, that's the first time we have done that with a large item authorized in the budget ordinance, and you did that. And I followed the purchasing and bid policy that we have in place, and we did achieve 3 bids, and we picked the lowest bid and awarded it to Edenton Tractor Company. And we've purchased a brand new Kubota that you can go down and look at, nice and shiny. But I did want to report that to you because this is our new system where you've approved things in the budget for me to purchase, and being that the size of that purchase was what it was susceptible to getting 3 bids, which I did, and I just wanted to report that to you. That's my report. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
I have one question that struck me. When we had the new recycling company come and do their discussion with us, did they not talk about leaf collection?
Yeah, they talked about leaf collection in the form of bagged leaves during the large item pickup.
Large item pickup.
Right, twice a year.
All right, twice a year.
So during the day of the large item pickup, if you put out bagged leaves, they will pick them up.
Gotcha, large item.
On your tractor, how did that fit budget-wise? Was it good?
Fit right in, right on target, just
Was it
about. It was a
okay?
little bit less than the budget amount, but as you recall, it has an apparatus piece of equipment on it as well. But we did come right in on budget on that. And
Good.
the other 2 bids were a little bit higher, and one of them even outside the budget realm.
Good.
Town Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything to report this evening.
I have 2 things to mention. One, the so-called shipwreck, the sailboat that foundered the shore at 66 Ocean Boulevard, I believe it was, last Monday night, a week ago Monday night. And I just wanted to say that I was really impressed with how the town responded to that. The town manager, Public Works, Police Department, Fire Department did a superb job of handling that situation, and I think that superb job has been recognized outside the town. So that was a very good show. And secondly, I really do thank the town manager for getting on with cleaning up the beach. It's been a terrible mess for a long time. And right now it is pristine. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that northeasters stay away from us for this coming winter season. Larry, you have anything?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
David?
One thing, Mr. Mayor, and this has probably been addressed in the past by previous council, but I wasn't sure what the outcome was. One of the things that we do not provide for our citizens within our waste disposal is construction, minor construction repair debris, and it's specifically excluded from the large item pickup. My understanding, based on the comments from a couple of citizens, is apparently they were able to take some materials over to Kitty Hawk at one time for their collection center, but that's now been cut off. They are screening people, and if they're from Southern Shores, they turn them around. Has there been a discussion before? It seemed like there was about a cooperative effort or an approach to Kitty Hawk and the possibility of cooperating on something like that?
I've had discussions before with the town manager at Kitty Hawk. You know, the county is involved with that site as well, but I mean, it's something we can continue to discuss.
What I was told, citizens that have dropped off certain recyclables is not a problem. But when it comes to construction, you know, like some sheetrock, 2x4s, things like that, they're being turned around. So apparently that's a side that Kitty Hawk has in their budget that they're paying for specifically. So could we possibly pick up a discussion with the town manager there, see if there was any way we could assist, participate, or in some way accommodate our citizens?
We can certainly, I can certainly come up, talk to him about partnering and see what the price tag will be for a year.
I'd appreciate it.
Cost on something like that, but come back to council with that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have nothing, thank you.
I just wanted to add, you mentioned about the shipwreck, and we're talking about it being outside the town. I happened to run into the owner of the house on Thanksgiving Day when she stopped to tell me, and she could not stop talking and praising each and every one of our people by name. She knew who they were, what they were. She was impressed with how kind, knowledgeable, efficient, professional. I mean, she just went on and on and on. So I have to add my thanks too. That was fantastic. That's all I have.
I'm going to move, we go into closed session, people, but if you would just sit tight and while we make the motion, then I'll declare a recess and you can all get out here. Council, I move that we enter into closed session for the express purpose of approving closed session minutes pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1. We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're in closed session and we're in recess.